Well, this is the third delivery that we are doing in relation to the subject of what we are not seeing, which we consider to be an important, transcendental, and of much force and actuality in our days. It's very important to transmit this knowledge to those that can hear, because Jesus the Messiah exposed us to a series of circumstances that are new to us, human beings. And these expositions, these themes that were very precise, and even though they tried to remain in oblivion or were twisted throughout history by the different religions, religious groups, tendencies, sects, and well, we could continue mentioning names and titles and denominations, and that is not the sense. We repeat, these themes that Jesus the Messiah left us and that are the key to have a fundamental base at the time of understanding and interpreting the things that have been revealed. Make of this subject a subject that we begin to consider as very transcendental. And transcendental by the fact that if we do not have these themes, these icons, these fundamental points of the declarations of Jesus the Messiah, that have nothing to do with the Pauline theories, with the Pauline doctrine, nor the Pedrists, nor the Johncists, in which we are not interested in any way. Those, for us, are already history. For the Church of God, the most transcendental, the most important are the declarations of God the Father, the declarations of the Holy Spirit, and the declarations of the very same Jesus the Messiah. Besides that, any other thing that contradicts them does not interest us. Moreover, we consider it filth, trash, that doesn't serve for anything and that must be discarded. Because regretfully that Paulist, Pedrist, and Johnson's doctrine is the one that actually has us in this confusion, in this religious Babel. And while we do not depart from this Babel, from this confusion, this structural deception, and we do not see to other side, we will continue astray. In our particular case, we are not interested what religion you have, what doctrine you profess, what religious group you follow or assemble in. We are neither interested to talk about dogmas, much less to talk about deceits. That doesn't interest us. In other words, we have as a foundation the fact that the person is what he is, and that will not be changed by anyone. Only God has the power to do it. Hence, nobody will do it. And if someone is a totally religious person, will die being a religious person. And when passing to the other extreme, the other side, the other limit, the other dimension, as many say, will discover a series of issues. And even though it will be already late, will be new to that person. In our particular case, we are compromised and profoundly interested that the ones that hear us have a very clear and defined conception of what are our purposes and what is the search that we are doing. Beforehand, we do not have interest in selling, offering, delivering, or making you see any religious group. We are not interested in the religious doctrine, neither the denominations, sects, the religion. In other words, we are not interested in any of this. We are not here to offer you an assembly or to go to a religious pagan temple. We are not interested in any of this because we consider that all these things were already addressed by God, by the Messiah and by the Holy Spirit. And there is already an official version, and we are not interested in what any other person says, but them. Here, God has the preeminence, the preponderance, the importance as Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Everything else does not matter. We are not interested in any way. Well, taking back what we have been discussing, or what we have been talking about in this third delivery, of what we are not seeing, we want to leave establish a fundamental fact that we were addressing in the third delivery, and is that the book of Revelation, the book of Apocalypse, is a book that was created by God. God is creator, and it's logical that he creates things. And that calls our attention because it allows us to make a comparative, a weighting, a contrast with other texts, the Genesis, in respect to the one we know as the Apocalypse. This comparison that is allowed to us by the centuries and millenniums that have passed allows us to see a series of things. First, we have to establish principles. For he who doesn't know, for he who believes in other things, for he who has not investigated, has not studied, has not bent the head, has not stayed awake late at night studying, well, use the term that you believe, that you like, or the one that seems better to you, but the one who has not studied normally always has as a belief a series of absurds, of heresies, of lies and deceits. So as a platform, that is the one that we would like to use in this third delivery in relation to the book of Genesis, as a platform we will clarify some facts that are fundamental. The first fact that we already need to have as a certain, as true, is that the tellings of the Genesis were not revelation from God. It was not God who dictated to Moses the creation or how things were created, but Moses, and this is a standard among translators, exegetes of the scriptures, Moses cut hold a lot of, took much of the tradition of back then. And that tradition was the one that he incorporated in the first pages of the book of Genesis. And if you pay attention, those of us who have already read the book of Genesis, we know that in the book of Genesis what is told are histories of blood, are physical facts, besides the confusion that Moses left us regarding a series of themes because were not well addressed, or were poorly addressed, or because he didn't inform himself, or didn't illustrate it himself, but left a chaos that has come to imperate in all the world in which we live until nowadays. So the contrast that we have, the truth that we have found, the Church of God, is that Genesis is a book written by men, not revealed by God, in contrast to the book of Apocalypse and its exceptions, because in the book of Apocalypse there is a hairy hand, as someone will say, or John wanted to put his hands into, wanted to give a tone to the book that it doesn't have, because that one was created by God. Remember that that revelation was given by God to Jesus the Messiah, and that revelation is the synonym of a creation. But John, as always, makes the same mistakes and begins to write things that are not true. We imagine to try to calm things down, as we say, or to applicate things a little bit. Something like that must be. But besides what John wrote, which doesn't have any value whatsoever because it is not part of the revelation, the book of Apocalypse is a book created by God. And that creation really cares us. Why? Because in that book the will of God will be given, and that interests us, knowing how God sees a series of topics that in contrast or opposition to the Genesis, some see it one way and God sees it in other way. So for us it is transcendental to know, understand, and interpret the words of God, and to see what we have not been able to see. But we repeat once again, it's transcendental and it's very important for the person to understand that Genesis is a book written by human beings, where mistakes were made, where things that are not true were written, where a conspiration was created that continues until nowadays, and that is falling apart as a result that it is deceitful. And this contrasts with the eternal truths revealed by God in the book of Apocalypse. So delving in this matter, we want to leave established that Genesis is a book written by human beings, where many things that are not true are said, that do not contrast with the history, and that proves that hands were meddled into. We do not know with what intentions, while Revelation puts us in a unique perspective of the vision that God has regarding a series of institutions that human beings have created, and of a series of religious and pagan institutions, because regretfully we find ourselves in a world of paganism. That is why nowadays even declarations are being made that call our attention very powerfully. Last time was reading in a circuit that they were talking about Christian pagans. Also, the disciple that I have was telling me that since some time ago it is being talked about pagan Jews. So this religious Babel, this confusion in which the world is submerged, we think it is necessary for us to help for this to be eliminated in the possibility. Not for all people, because that cannot be done. Because we repeat once again the principle that we have been using. People are what they are. The person is what it is. And only God can change this. So, it is very important, it is fundamental for us to leave this point established. And we insist in the subject. Genesis is not a book revealed by God, but it begins with much tradition that was managed back then. And beware, not all tradition was incorporated in the book, only certain tradition. And deceitful declarations are being given that are not true, that history proves that were a lie. In contrast, the book of Revelation, that for us is a book that is pure. And why do we say it is pure? Because it doesn't have the hand of the human being. Because it is a divine revelation. And this is very important for us. Because it allows us to understand, comprehend, which is the thought of that God has regarding so many things. We are always inviting you to visit the webpage of the church, churchofgod.tk, that you write to our email and that you send your questions, your concerns, your doubts, or if you want that we address any particular subject. We also invite you to visit our social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, to be able to share with you this development of the knowledge of the truth. A truth that must be exposed, must be questioned to be able to know if it survives. So we insist once again that we need to have very clear, it's very important for us to know what we are not seeing. And if you were not seeing that Genesis is a book that has serious problems, is a book where things that are not true are said, so there is a problem. And if you didn't knew that the book of Revelation or Apocalypse is a pure book, with exception of some hands-on from John, where we are being revealed God's criteria regarding a series of human and religious institutions, and about the end of the world, how He created it, so we are not seeing. So we openly invite you to follow this series of commentaries, of analysis and studies in relation to what we are not seeing. Beforehand, we appreciate your attention, and we hope that we can meet again soon. Thank you very much.